Is it the masses becoming familiar with your name long before you enter the chat as the world number one? Throw in a few age group world records and even a few early career national records, and all the pieces start to come together. This is perhaps the next great athlete that will become one of the greatest to ever touch the track. It's one thing to be hyped up from an early age, and perhaps this is the very first sign of greatness to come. But the problem is, for every one young prodigy that goes on to fulfill their potential, there's about 20 others that simply cannot reach the next level. Finding your way to the very top of the world in track and field is one of the most challenging tasks that any athlete has. But one man who has undeniably achieved this world number one status is Jakob Ingebrigtsen from Norway. As one of the most hyped up teenage runners to ever come through the ranks, Jakob gained international attention from a very early age, and in part, this was because his family was a part of the TV show called Team Ingebrigtsen, which followed Jakob and his two brothers Philip and Henrik across Norway as they trained, lived, and competed against their fellow runners. But the real reason, the actual means by which Jakob has gotten so much screen time, was because he somehow managed to win, even when he was just 16. From becoming the youngest athlete to ever break 4 minutes in the mile, to winning the coveted 1,500 and 5,000 meter double at the European Championships at just 17, Jakob just would not stop living up to super elite expectations that were set up for him when he was very little. However, even with his early career successes and various national records, he still went on to exceed any and all expectations in his later years. Starting in 2022, Jakob broke his first world record in the indoor 1,500 meters, running a time of 3 minutes 30.60 seconds, becoming the first athlete in history to run under 3:31 indoors. Ever since this very first introduction to the World Record Club, Jakob has not slowed down in the slightest. After this first world record, Jakob's appetite to be the fastest of all time just could not be satisfied, because as of 2025, Jakob has 5 world records to his name, and many of these records took down legends in the sport of running. For his 2,000-meter record, he dethroned the previous mark of Hicham El Guerrouj from Morocco, an athlete who is considered to be the greatest middle-distance runner of all time. For his 2-mile world record of 7 minutes and 54 seconds from 2023, this absolutely smashed the previous mark of Daniel Komen, who for more than 2 decades remained as the only athlete to ever break 8 minutes over the 2-mile run. Yes, that is 2 consecutive sub-4-minute miles. That's just crazy. But perhaps Jakob's most impressive record came over the 3,000 meters, where he ran a time of 7 minutes, 17.55 seconds, again taking down a legendary record of Daniel Komen that had stood for almost 3 decades. And this record was considered by many to be the Mount Everest of track records, and yet, Jakob managed to defeat it by more than 3 seconds. Also, Jakob's total score from this run on the World Athletics scoring table came out to 13:20, a top 5 all-time running record to ever take place on the men's side. Indeed, Jakob's running momentum moving into the 2025 season was extremely high, and only adding to his greatness was the fact that he smashed the world record for the indoor mile yet again this year on February 13th. This record, from a scoring standpoint, even outscored his own 3,000 record, meaning that his outdoor season was looking to be one of the most promising in his career. However, injury would prove to take over Jakob's 2025 outdoor campaign, and because of a nagging Achilles issue, he hasn't even competed so far in 2025. Combined with his new indoor world records from this season and his 1,500 and 3,000 meter world championship double in Nanjing, China, Jakob's track season was on pace to be historic. But this one Achilles issue has gone from bad to worse, as Jakob has had to cancel events as the season has progressed. And for Jakob, his World Championships in Tokyo appear to have been lost, as his racing has only gotten more and more minimal as the year has gone on. It really did seem as though Jakob would not be competing in Tokyo, as he hadn't competed since Nanjing, China during the indoor campaign. But that was until his recent announcement that he would in fact be competing in Tokyo. Recently in the Norwegian news, Jakob stated that he will be competing in both the 1500 and the 5000 meters, and he'll be aiming for a running double that has not been achieved since 2007, since Bernard Lagat from the US pulled off the double gold in the 15 and the 5000. This double is considered as one of the most difficult in all of running, and it's even difficult if you're entering a global championship with solid running throughout your season. But for someone like Jakob, someone that has struggled for the entirety of this outdoor campaign, this double is basically impossible, right? Well, perhaps not. Even through his trials and tribulations this year, some people are already calling for Jakob to actually pull off this double and cement his name as one of the greatest distance runners of all time, while others are taking his struggles into consideration, and they see this as clear evidence that this distance gold double simply cannot happen. Now, in reviewing the full list of athletes that Jakob will be competing against, logic tells us that this 1500 and 5000 double is genuinely next to impossible. He'll have to compete through rounds in both events. He has very little experience to build off of in 2025, and considering that he has actually never pulled off this double so far, this can only mean one thing. Jakob is very much going to struggle to pull off this double. One very important thing to remember about Jakob is that he really is fearless. There is no shortage of confidence running through his mind at all times of the year. And even though some may find his antics and hubris a little bit difficult to digest at times, one thing remains. Jakob's resume backs up this talk. But does this mean that he will actually stay competitive and even win at this year's World Champs? First, let's start with the 5,000 meters. This is easily the event where Jakob has the best chance at winning, because unbelievably, Jakob has not lost a single 5,000 in 6 years. Yes, he did place third in the qualifying round of the 2023 World Championships in Budapest, but this was only a qualification race. It's the finals that really matter. Given his huge successes over the 5,000 meters, which includes a World Championship in 2022, another World Championship in 2023, and an Olympic gold in 2024, Jakob has proven his class over and over and over again. And it really boils down to the fact that at any pace, at any point in the race, Jakob can respond and then somehow throw down a 53-second final lap. If Jakob is at all in decent fitness, he has at least a chance to pull off the win in Tokyo in the 5K. But even though the 5,000 meters has historically been an event where Jakob can somehow take the gold medal in, the 1,500 meters is a completely different story this season. On paper, 2025 is a very fast year for the 1500. If we go back to 2024, which was of course an Olympic year, we saw a total of 8 runners break 3 minutes and 30 seconds. This is a huge amount of talent running under such a quick barrier. However, in 2025, we already have 14 runners breaking 3:30. This depth is making this event one of the key highlights moving into this year's World Champs. But this number only tells us one story, because despite speedy times already being reached before the Tokyo Games arrive, it is becoming apparent that strategy and flawless racing execution are going to be required to win in Tokyo. And given that Jakob is severely lacking in racing, winning is going to be a monumental task. Also, and this is very much a concern for Jakob right now, having a strong finishing kick will almost certainly be a part of what it takes to win in the 1500 this season. In 2022, 2023, and in 2024, Jakob was right in contention for the gold over the final 200. But it was ultimately the fast finishes of Jake Whiteman, Josh Kerr, and Cole Hawker that ultimately proved to be the winning strategy for the gold medal. If Jakob's kick is not present, he simply cannot win the 1500 this season, as others have already proven incredible finishing speeds. But Jakob is a competitor, as he recently stated that no matter what, he loves to compete and he wants to represent his country. Unlike the previous 3 gold medal championships, Jakob is entering Tokyo as an underdog, and some are actually claiming that this is going to benefit Jakob moving into this year's World Championships, as this does mean that he's not really someone expected to come out on top, and potentially taking away the pressure that comes as the favorite could actually open up his race to his advantage. And while this may be the case, as you won't be feeling the same kind of tension, I personally think that Jakob is currently not favored to win the gold medal. The depth this year is just too intense, the speed the athletes have been reaching has just been too fast, and the kicks, the speed of the finishes are officially lined up for Worlds to be incredibly dynamic as this final unfolds. Now, considering that Jakob will have to compete with the likes of Niels Laros, Josh Kerr, Cole Hawker, Azadine Hobbs, Fanuel Konich, and also Jonah Koech, it will be a monumental task to come out on top or to even mount the podium in this year's World Championships. But Jakob has proven his class, so potentially he could make his way to the podium. And now I would love to hear from all of you. What are your expectations for Jakob Ingebrigtsen? How fast do you think he will run? And how do you think he'll compete in the 5,000 and the 1,500? Thanks for watching, everyone. And as always, until next time.